Hello, everyone, and welcome to It's Your Voice podcast. I am your host, Anita DeFrancesco, and this is episode 1. And this podcast is dedicated to the Donna Gentilly story, which is a true crime book I wrote on a first cousin of mine who was silenced for speaking out in a courtroom in 1985 in San Diego. A young woman who had a voice and stood up for her rights. Well, now today, women all have their voices. Or at least we think we do. So this is also dedicated to all the voiceless women of the world. May your voice be heard. Now, during this podcast, which will come to you monthly or weekly, it's going to be about a hybrid of topics from all of the different areas that I work in and all of the different people I meet around the planet. Firstly, it's going to be about mindfulness, sexuality, and relationships. Highlight on relationships, intimacy, and sexuality. We're going to talk about divine love transformation, which is encompassing all of that and what that means and how you become this divine, sacred human being. Bettering yourself, getting to that higher power. And Tantra wisdom is my work. And also, I may have some true crime topics in here at some point. Talking to other people who have lost relatives to murder, but mostly it's going to be the metaphysical, spiritual sexuality. So on that note, my topic today is celebrating and practicing love versus hate. And what does that mean? It is a loaded statement. How do you become love? Well, why don't you begin by surrounding yourself with people who celebrate you rather than tolerate you? What does that mean? Some people don't even know what that means. If you find yourself surrounded by people who belittle you, who put you down, who dismiss you, who deceive you, who judge you, who condescend you, then you have lost what we call your self-love and you have a low self-esteem. So listening to some of these talks about this should be able to be empowering, enlightening, to teach you to want to help yourself and take that next step. Because we all deserve love and we all deserve respect and appreciation. But we have to learn the different levels of these words that are so loaded. Appreciation, what does that mean? We'll get into that another time. So love and opposite. Love and hate, they carry polar opposites. Love carries this happiness energy, this energy of openness, this energy of vulnerableness, this energy of giving, where hate carries envy, destruction, self-destruction, violence. Now, I find there's a thin line between love and hate, and there certainly is. But you can make a choice. What side do you want to go on? Do you want to stay in the mud? Or do you want to be in the side of light? And I know it takes time to get there because a lot of us have come from a lot of pain and have not understood where or how. We're frozen. We're frozen in time. And we're still plowing through the waves, undoing the frozen. So my goal is to always approach life with love, with the words I like, removing the word hate from your vocabulary, because the more you hate things, how can you love a significant other or anyone? I mean, romance is one thing, but it takes a village, to love and raise people, children, as I think Hillary Clinton said that one time. But if you can hate, you certainly can love. But then again, you don't know what love is, right? So let's continue to listen to podcasts like this and read books and learn about how to get to that sacred space within your truth, in your soul, that is about how to love yourself, how to undo the layers and the trauma. These are patterns and resistances that take over your character, your innocence, your humanness. And we dance around that. But happiness can come through. And happiness is part of love energy. It doesn't mean you have to be in love. Sometimes romantic love can be painful if there's betrayal and infidelity and those things of that nature. But if you have a lot of self-love and you're loaded with that depthfulness and you have that relationship to yourself, then you should be fine. You have boundaries. You have healthy boundaries. Say you love someone and it is not returned to you. It doesn't mean you have to become that person and take on their poison. Loving someone for no reason, smiling for no reason, is higher power. It is saying that it's okay. So if you are loving someone and giving, don't go into the headset of expecting something back or expecting the same attitude that you're giving. It's about being and maintaining and sustaining who you are in your soul, in your depth. So if you want to be loved, be loved. Don't take on someone else's poison because they don't know how to love you back. But what you can do is continually use words like I like, being more congruent and more harmonizing in your phrases. And you can encourage someone's heart. So it's all about that heart. There's so much heart disease in the world. And why is there heart disease? Because people they're fractured. They're fractured in their soul. They're fractured in the heart. And they don't understand why. Because the world doesn't teach us this. And you have to really find communities that will talk to you about how to become the part of your soul and spirit and how to line that up. And when you turn to hate, you lose that higher power. You basically turn the leaf. And once the leaf is turned, we become split in our character. We become more destructive. We have a denial type character. We have a defensive type character. And so this character is all, again, leaning on the hate side of the humanness. Love, on the other hand, is an action. And some think it can take your personal freedom away, but in essence, you become more free when you love, because hate requires resistances, hinges, and lockdown, and that's what hate requires. It's very hard to stay in the lockedness, the stuckedness of hate, where love is free. But see, the challenge is that people don't accept your freedom, because then you have to become vulnerable. You have to show who you are. You have to show your soul. So the world dismisses that, or they put it down, and they don't accept it because they're afraid of it in themselves. So I encourage you to be who you are more and more, as much as you can, or find communities where you can express your soul. You're listening to It's Your Voice podcast. I'm your host, Anita DeFrancesco. This podcast is dedicated to the Donna Gentilly story, my true crime book on a cousin who was silenced back in 1985, who was a woman who stood up for her rights and had a voice but was silenced. And I am the voice for her. And the book is also dedicated to all the voiceless women of the world. May your voice be heard. We're on episode 1 here. So now, to get to the love, we're talking about love versus hate today. To get to the love energy, it requires a compassion and empathy. Hate is a stuck ego. And we're born with an ego, we're born with innocence, but we have to learn compassion from our role models. We have to learn how to empathize. And how do you do that? You learn from role models, or you learn from people around you. You visualize, you see. Sometimes we become so frozen and numb in our character from the upbringing that we may have experienced that may not have been so good, that we are unable to feel. And I do a lot of that work in my psychotherapy, my relationship and love counseling, and Tantra work. I teach people how to open up the somatic body. And this is one of the ways to get in and address the hate in there. The hate is the anger, and it sits below the belly button. And underneath that is the sadness, the creative You are so creative, you people that are full of hate, but you are blocking it and holding it back. You're being stuck and stubborn. So I'm asking you to show us your light. Show us that light a little bit. What happens when hate attracts love? Hate attracts love. How do two people get along when you have a hate character and a love character, or a love character and a hate character? So that is just something to think about. If you attract someone that is not as loving and blissful and open and vulnerable and expressive as you, and they are the complete opposite, hopefully that you can mesh your differences and teach each other things and ways to actually adapt or adjust or make some positive changes. So love is right and hate is wrong. And these are statements that people feel when they're in this mindset of being right and wrong. So the wrong always carries the hate energy. The love carries the right energy. So, or vice versa. But what it is that what we really want to get to is to open the heart. And the more you open that heart and you see people and you extend a smile to a homeless person or anyone out there, you are extending a piece of love. You're sharing love. And it's okay to have love. It's okay to open up to that love and be in that moment. Love knows no rules. Love has no limitations. Optimism versus pessimism, same thing. So when I'll give you just a little bit more here. You're listening to It's Your Voice. I'm Anita DeFrancesco. This show is dedicated to the Donna Gentilly story. It is a book of mine, a true crime, and to all the voiceless women of the world, may your voice be heard. Let's talk about what love and hate are. So in relationships. Now, love has an intense emotion stemming from appreciation and attraction, where hate has an intense emotion of dislike and annoyance. So when you're in that dislike and annoyance, you're discharging. The body is discharging. It is constantly in a complaining or blaming way of living. So we want to come into the sacred space and create the sacred space of love. Love can turn into hatred, and hate can turn into love. So I'll leave you with that, something to think about. Love can be brought upon by others. Hate could be brought upon by other emotions. So there's what we call transference. If you're hanging around with a lot of blameful, judgeful type people and they're negative, or they have a lot of trauma, past trauma in their body, there's a lot of transference that people carry. And once you get that transference in your somatic body, you embody that. And so it needs to be undone. So this is why we have to keep, what I say, cleansing the emotions, always clearing out at least every few months to keep yourself fresh from new things that can enter your orbit inside the body. Love makes people mostly active. Hate makes you passive, depressive, oppressive, suppressive. Love is constructive in its active form. Hate is destructive in its active form. So these are just a few things today about love, celebrating love, and practicing love versus hate. So on that note, what I'm going to leave you with is to, for this week, take it upon yourself to go out and make the first step to show someone that you care, or just show a little compassion, in an effort, in a way, to encourage your heart to open up to your own feelings. Thank you for tuning in. I have been your host, Anita DeFrancesco. You're listening to It's Your Voice podcast. Stay tuned for next time, folks. Okay.